and welcome here to TalkFCB, and welcome back to the channel here today, guys, where yes, I am back at home, and we are ready to get really going on the videos again, because today, there's a full one coming up for you. We're going to be looking at the defence at Barca, and a real close look as well at the good, and also the bad, and the concerning, and different things that we have to talk about right now. We've also got real questions about several futures in this team right now. Marc, Casado, and Araujo are on the agenda there, and we also have to discuss Marcus Rashford. It is on the way. Get yourselves comfortable, and let's do this. Because let's first of all begin then by talking about the defensive side of Barca. Because I've got to say, guys, you know, I asked for your questions yesterday on my community section, and so many of them were based around the defence. You know, what do you make of it right now? Are there some concerning signs? Should we be worried, you know, based on what we've seen in pre-season, based on, of course, what we saw at the tail end of last season in the Champions League? That was our undoing. You know, let's not forget here, it wasn't about the goals that we were scoring. It wasn't about here the fact that maybe we struggled against top teams. It was all about leaking goals and not really always being able to outscore our opponents. So is there any reason to be a little bit concerned based on what we've seen in pre-season? Well, the first thing that I would say is, okay, we've conceded 1 against Vissel Kobe in Japan. More alarmingly, I would say, we conceded 3 against Seoul in South Korea. But I think as we saw last season, guys, so much of this system here with Hansi Flick, so much of this high line, in order for it to work effectively, the pressing has to be perfect, and it's everybody's responsibility. You know, when we're talking about the defence here, it's not just about the defensive line, it's not just about the offside trap, it's everybody having to buy in and work together. And what I would say here is, in pre-season, we are far from top gear yet. You know, we are not running around, we are not pressing with the absolute maximum yet this early in pre-season. So of course it will get sharper. Yeah, we may have conceded a few goals so far, but I wouldn't think that there's too many alarm bells ringing just because of that. Because also don't forget, guys, as well as the pressing issue, there's also the matter of all of the changes that you see in pre-season. All the time here, there's changes to the lineup, then you go into the second half and there's loads more changes there. You're constantly playing with different partners at the back, a different midfield in front of you. We saw that last season. In order for this offside trap to work effectively, you need a rock-solid line, and actually they're players who understand each other, who work as partnerships, and that was very, very effective to make the whole system work. So I think here, we will get better. You know, the defensive shape, the defensive setup, it will improve, it will start to certainly grow as the season goes on, but you know, there is still part of me, though, that is worried, and it's not based on pre-season, it's based upon the fact that over the summer, we have done virtually nothing to our defence. You know, okay, we brought in Joan Garcia, a new goalkeeper. That's very, very important for the team as a whole. But in terms of that defensive line, in terms of the strength in depth that we've been looking for in defence, we haven't done anything. We haven't signed anybody. We haven't gone out there and addressed any areas of that back four. And that does worry me. That is why when we hear Laporta coming out and saying, look, there may not be any more signings. Look, I understand that from an FFP point of view. We're going to be talking all about that in a minute. But from a sporting perspective, I am concerned. Have we done enough? Have we done enough to that defence? Have we given it enough of a priority? And what I would ask you guys right now, we just spoke about having that tried and trusted backline, players who understand each other, players who work well as partnerships. If you were starting the season tomorrow and you needed to pick your backline, your rock-solid back four, who would you pick right now? Who would your backline be? Because I've got to say, you know, last season we saw Koundé, we saw Kubasi, Inigo Martinez was incredible, Alejandro Balde. That was the 4 that played so many games. But what I would argue right now, Andreas Christensen, his stock is rising, in my opinion. And I think he's somebody here who can add a lot to that backline, which is why every time that he's been linked away from the club, it's so frustrating. Don't sell players that can help you. Don't sell players here who have quality and actually suit the style of play. For me, he's really trying to work his way in. This pre-season has been good for him. We know his quality if he can stay fit. That's what we've always said. That's the only stumbling block. If he can stay fit and be out there, he can be an absolute asset. But not only that either, because can I also just say, keep a very close eye on Joffrey Torrance. This is a 18-year-old who's been at Barca ever since he was a kid. Many years now he's been coming through La Masia. And I think you see that in his game. I think it's very, very clear when you watch this young man, he is a very, very impressive talent at left back. And to be honest, again, you're looking at La Masia, it's perfect timing. We need somebody in these full-back areas, especially at left-back. We need more cover for Alejandro Balde. When he was out injured for an extended period last season, we were in turmoil. It really did hurt the team. And I just think right now, guys, if Jofre, if he can keep these performances going, he is going to be right there in the conversation for the first team. He does have the quality. He does have the talent. And Flick, he's brought him on this tour for a reason. He's seen something in training there in his game. And now we're starting to see it in matches. I think he's very exciting. And again, it couldn't have come at a better time if this is a young talent that's about to explode. However, guys, we do need to move on to the club's situation right now. And speaking there about the fact that, Barca may not be able to make any more signings this summer. And the reason for that is because we still, and this pains me and it frustrates me, and I still don't fully understand how we are in this position. We are still not in the 1-for-1 rule. We still have to sell. We still have to generate money to achieve the 1-for-1 rule. And like I say, that really does frustrate me. That angers me to my core, because do not forget, at the start of July, we were all told in the media, we were all told publicly by the club that we were about to achieve it. Even Joan Laporta himself said, we are 1-for-1. We're there now. We've achieved it. We've done it. And now we're in August, 1 month on. We're still talking about players getting registered. We are still talking about, are we going to be able to do it? How are we going to do that? How are we going to do that? We're talking about it after the fact, after we've signed them now. Again, we're worrying about registrations. And let's be honest, guys, compared to most clubs that you see this summer, the amount of money that's being spent, the amount of players that are being brought in, it's not like we've done a load of business. It's not like we've got, many players here to register. Joan Garcia's salary, it's not even a big one. Rashford here, he's on a season-long loan. So at the end of the day here, Barca, it's not even as though they're having to register staggering amounts of money, and it's still a hassle. It's still a real difficulty for the club, and that is why now we're still talking about maybe selling players that we shouldn't. Because indeed today, guys, in the media, unfortunately, the big news again is surrounding Marc Casado. Now, this is a rumour that we've heard right throughout the summer. Are Barca interested in selling him? Would they accept an offer if it came their way? And again, right here this morning, we're hearing Barca feel as though they need to sell Casado. They feel as though if an offer came their way, they have to take the money right now. They need it to generate those funds to be able to register players. And right now, again, we're talking about 30 million euros. That is the figure that is being mentioned in the media. And again, just don't be surprised. Let's say it again, don't be surprised if our constant desperation is taken advantage of by other clubs who come in and pay 30 million for Casado. That is a bargain. There's no other way of looking at it. When you look at the amounts that players are going for this summer, 30 million for Casado, it is daylight robbery. It really, really is. And I've got to say, I don't like this. I don't like anything about it. What we're hearing is Casado doesn't want to leave. It's the club of his life. He's waited a long time for this chance. He impressed last season. He doesn't want to go. But whether the club now will try to put some pressure on him, we don't know. When the offers arrive, given that they are so desperate that they need the money, they may put pressure on him. We don't know that. But I'm just not a fan of this. At the end of the day, we are actively looking to push somebody out who can help us, and who did help us last season. He is quite a unique profile. I know that we have other players in there. I know that we've got Frankie. I know that we've got Gavi. I know that we've got Pedri. I know that we've got Bernal. We've got central midfielders. But Casado is a different profile to that, though. Defensively, he offers something different. And depending on the games that you play, depending on the circumstances of the match, his skill set could be very much required, and especially if you get things like injuries, suspensions. We know that happens at Barca. You will leave yourself short. And I just look at Casado. He's not on high wages. This is not a guy who earns a lot of money. It's not a guy here who's making big demands for minutes here. He's not somebody that causes problems. And for all of that, he still provides quality depth. And you want to sell him. I mean, it's really, really tricky. It's hard to get your head around. We shouldn't be a selling club. Would we be stronger with Casado, or would we be stronger without him? Of course you want to keep him. Flick will want to keep players who can help him, and that's why our situation, it doesn't sit well with me. The fact that we are still scrambling around, the fact that we are still desperate here in yet another summer. It's frustrating. But that is not all, because we also have to talk here today about Ronald Araujo, because obviously this is another exit rumour that kind of refuses to go away. You know, it pops up every few days. Is Araujo on the market? Is he available? Would Barca take money if it was offered to them? Now, we know that Araujo's lower release clause of 60 million euros has now expired, but Barca could still explore a deal if an offer did come in to them. And I think you'd be talking here about double the money that, say, Casado would generate for the club. And let's not forget either that Araujo is earning more than Casado too. So you're talking here about big transfer fees. You're talking about removing high wages. But again, the question is, should you? Should you actively look to move on a player like Araujo? And I just think right now, I do think with him the jury is out, because I think even if you watch him here in pre-season, you know, some of the goals that we've conceded, and again, it's about the whole team. It's not about individuals this early on. Everybody's still getting up to speed. You don't want to put too much blame on anybody, but there are still some flaws in Araujo's game that we saw at the end of last season, that we saw in big Champions League games that can certainly cost the team, and he does need to iron those out. And what we also hear in the media is that if Araujo doesn't feel that he's first choice this season, if he doesn't feel as though he's completely trusted by Flick, then he doesn't want to stay here. You know, it's almost as though this season is going to decide a lot when it comes to Araujo. If he can't break into this team consistently, if he's not one of the first names on that defensive team sheet, then he's going to start thinking about his future. Will that be accelerated? Will that be brought forward to this summer? If an offer comes in, would Barca speak to the player? What would happen? How would everything unfold? I think there's going to be some big weeks to come. And I think certainly the start of the season there, the opening games, the starting lineups, they could go a long way to deciding what's going to happen with Araujo. Because again, he is one of the few players maybe in the squad where there is interest, where there could be money on the table. And as we said, Barca are desperate. But indeed, guys, we do need to move on to Marcus Rashford, because let me just say right now, this man, he looks reborn. He looks absolutely refreshed here at Barca. New surroundings, new club. He looks like a free man. It's absolutely amazing. And I've also really enjoyed already his relationship with Lamine Yamal. I think the two of them are getting on very well together. I've already seen Yamal in training there, sort of scoring a goal and then doing the Rashford celebration. It's just really nice to see. And I think this kind of dressing room, it's exactly what Rashford needed, to come into somewhere where he feels actually very comfortable, very happy in himself, in his football. And I think you combine that as well with the good nature of the players around him, with the young squad, with the excitement, but also then you've got the discipline, the hard work, the demands of Hansi Flick to get the best out of him. The balance is absolutely perfect. He is energised, he is motivated. Rashford is well and truly ready to go. And that is why, guys, right here today, I've got a question coming in. Give a bold prediction that you can look back on at the end of the season. For instance, like Rashford will score more goals than Nico Williams. And that is an interesting one. And you know what? Let's go with that. Let's do it. Let's right here and now say the bold prediction. Whether it is bold, I don't really know. You know, Nico is not a prolific goal scorer by any means. No offence there. But let's just say right here, this season, Rashford is going to score more goals than Nico Williams. Count it. We will come back and explore that. And let me just explain why I'm saying that here. I just think he's going to get so many chances. I just think already here in pre-season, you can see the promising signs. You can see the fact that Rashford is picking up spaces. He's got the pace as well to exploit those spaces. He reads the game very well. He spoke about that. That's one of the things that he prides himself most on, the ability to find those pockets and understand passages of play. And I think as well, he's got great movement. When he gets into those positions, cutting in as well on that right foot, everything there is looking so promising. And I think all that it's about now is sharpness. It's about, repeating the actions, understanding the style, drilling these things over and over again. And ultimately, it's about confidence. It's about him getting that first goal, getting off the mark, putting some finishes away, and just feeling again like, okay, I'm Marcus Rashford. I know what I can do. I've scored goals right throughout my career. I can be electric in front of goal. I can be so clinical. When he rediscovers that feeling, when he is ultimately reborn, I think we do have a very exciting player and a very exciting prospect for this team right here in Marcus Rashford. And so indeed, guys, what I would like to know from you is, well, do you agree with that? Do you think that Rashford can actually outscore Nico Williams this season? Let me know that in the comments down below. But also, if you had to pick there a number, How many goals do you believe that Rashford can score for Barca this season? Let me know in the comments down below, and of course as well on everything else that we have discussed in today's video. It is great to be properly back. I am very, very excited for these days, these weeks, these months, this whole season to come, and to spend it with all of you incredible people. Thank you indeed for the great support, guys. I will catch you soon, but until next time, as always, Vesca, el Barça.